Welcome to the DEbrief. My name is Mariah Fletcher and I'm your host, where the DE brings the news to your ears. I'm here with news editor Jackson Brandhorst, who worked on a story about ICE in Southern Illinois that grabbed lots of attention on social media. Jackson, tell me about your story.
So earlier this month, in what is the first reported case of ICE agents, federal agents in Carbondale, they arrested this undocumented immigrant, this man who's been here for 25 years named Bulmaro Perez Ramirez, outside of his home. That was on Tuesday, March 17th. Now, this was a day before a lot of people on social media in the Carbondale area had said that they saw ICE agents. Even one of our Carbondale City Council members came out and said on Facebook that they had seen and essentially confirmed ICE activity in Southern Illinois, but we didn't know exactly what happened. So I started reaching out to some people, and having established ourselves a little bit into some spaces, immigrants' rights groups, and just other places in Southern Illinois, we were able to contact some people who knew what exactly had gone on. Liley and I, their photographer on this project, actually spent outside of the Jackson County Courthouse because Spanish court was going on that day, and through a couple of different leads and sources, we sort of expected ICE to be there because the strategy that ICE will use is sitting outside of courthouses and then apprehending people on their way out, which that was sort of a bust. We didn't find any ICE agents there, but for better or worse, a couple days later, I was informed via one of my sources that a man had been arrested, and I got in touch with his family, learned all about him, his history, how long he had been here, and how the arrest went. So we told that story.
So I think we can both agree that this probably was not an isolated incident. There wasn't just ICE agents here for one specific man. Can you tell me a little bit about if your sources have informed you of anything else you just couldn't write about yet?
Yeah, well, I mean, this was the first case reported in Carbondale, but, I was on here, I guess, a couple episodes ago, and we had the first reported case of Southern Illinois. And when I say first, I mean since this most current federal administration took over for their second stint. That's what we're referring to. So in that time period, the DuQuoin arrests that happened with those 6 men that were working at the sawmill, that was the first reported apprehension of people in Southern Illinois. This was the second. However, having been in the community for a while now and having been following this for well over 6 months now, we know that there's been dozens. There's been dozens of ICE arrests in Southern Illinois. I have spoken to people that we are working on writing about, and not everything is necessarily a story. This was a story because there was a bit of a humanitarian angle to this.
Yes.
This was telling the story of someone's life.
Yes.
In trying to, this was a unique situation.
Yeah.
But we know that there are over a dozen, for sure, dozens is what I've heard, of ICE arrests have happened in Southern Illinois within just since, I think the earliest that I can think of and that people have told me is October. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was it like speaking with his family? Because I'm sure that was tough because that was such a recent thing that had happened when you did start writing. So how was that?
Yeah, it was incredibly sensitive and very tough. Not for me. Yes, for me, of course, but more, of course, for the family. Like, it was a very, very emotional. We worked on it for like Friday, Saturday, Sunday type of deal. And it was a very emotional weekend, just speaking to them and hearing their story. As the story details, or the article details, this was not their father's first arrest, nor was it the first arrest that they had seen. He was detained by ICE in 2011, in which the younger of the 2 daughters recounted very vividly to me when she was like 4 or 5 years old. And it was, according to her, much more of a violent arrest. And this is back in 2011, where in the same house that they're in right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, working with him was tough. And the whole time we were like, I was just very, honestly, like, it was very commendable and very admirable that they were able to even tell this story, because working on topics like this, especially when you have, you yourself can be in jeopardy, or you could be jeopardizing your friends and your family, and you're essentially doxing yourself in a lot of ways with your house and your community and where you are. The fact that they were able to come to me and tell me that they'd like this story to be told because they felt it was such a unique story, and that other people needed to know about this. Not just like, ICE is here and ICE is arresting people, because that in itself is news.
Yeah.
Because we had not had that yet in Carbondale. There was no confirmation of that. And really, the day afterward, when people were saying that ICE was here, I was taking it with a grain of salt. I was like, we've had this happen for the past year now. Like, people have been blowing up my phone, like, ICE is here. And I'm like, okay, well, whenever you can for sure confirm it, let me know. Which in this case, nobody was able to do that. I had to do that myself, which was great. And I did it through them because they were able to speak up. And they were like, no, this did happen. And then, of course, you go through the checks and balances of checking with ICE and going to this thing called the detainee locator.
Mm-hmm.
You can call the jails and see where they're at. So I did all that, and I was like, okay, this happened. This really did happen. And then upon, meeting with them, they had videos and photos, and, they documented it very well.
Wow.
Which
Good.
was very interesting. And they're just... It's very, very sad because, again, as the story sort of tells, this is a guy who, of course, came to America undocumented, completely, according to the law, illegally, 25 years ago.
Yes.
And spent the early part of his life here trying to figure out, how he wanted to live here, and struggling with sobriety and struggling with a myriad of things. Establishes himself as a family, spends almost a year in jail, then comes out and says that he found God in jail and turned to religion and got completely sober, started a business, started raising his family. And some of these quotes that are in this article are just very telling of the type of person that he had become post his original run-ins with the law. And for 20 years, he didn't have anything. He had no violations of any law, and he's pulled over in DuQuoin coming back from St. Louis. He has to show up in court, and that flags it for the federal government. And weeks later, he's arrested by ICE. So it just leaves his family, who he was a staple of their life. He was doing most of the things around the house. He was earning most of the money. He was aside from the financial stuff, he was also just seemingly a really pleasant presence in the house and in the community, and everyone that we spoke to really, really liked him and really loved him, actually. And it leaves them very, very confused and obviously very upset, and they literally have no idea how they're going to move on from this. They have no clue.
So do we know how he is doing now, or kind of what is going on with that situation currently by the end of March?
Yeah, so we haven't reported on any of this yet. So I don't know how newsworthy it really is, but I will update on the podcast that he's been transferred to Mount Vernon, Illinois. Originally he was taken to St. Louis. I'm not entirely sure what they were, probably Greene County, where the other guys were taken, and then he was transferred to St. Genevieve Detention Center, which is an ICE detention center. And then from there, they sort of unexpectedly took him to Mount Vernon, Illinois. And the reason they did that is because we believe that he's going to have to serve a couple of years in jail in Southern Illinois. So this man, I guess maybe contrary to what we speculated in the original story, because it was a bit of speculation, he's not going to be deported anytime soon. He's going to have to spend jail time in Mount Vernon because he committed a felony, which is reentry to the United States. It can be, I'm saying a lot of these things allegedly. This is all alleged.
Yes.
There are still processes that have to take place.
Yes.
He's not gotten in front of an immigration lawyer yet. They have legal counsel to some degree, but no official attorney is representing him in anything, just because it is so far-fetched. And, when it comes to this law, it is very tight, and there is no room for moving. And this guy has an extensive criminal record from 20 years ago. And there's just no, he's not beating that case. There's no way around it. So what we think is going to happen to him right now is he's going to end up spending, maybe 2 or 3 years at somewhere around there in Mount Vernon before he is deported, which is interesting because
that is interesting.
It's I've never heard of that happening.
I haven't either.
But all of this is new. Much of this movement from ICE in this current administration is unprecedented. So it's all sort of new. We don't really know how it all works, and this is one of those first cases that I've been following, obviously very closely. And I feel like every other day I'm sort of shocked. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I don't know how this works. I don't know why they're doing these things or what, and I don't know if anybody else really does either. But they're just, they're trying to figure it out. So I don't know if it's no really like good or bad thing, but they can, Mount Vernon's not very far away from Carbondale.
No.
And they can go visit him. And they were visiting him in St. Genevieve, actually. They went up a couple times to do that, which it's only like an hour and a half away. So they could do that in Mount Vernon. Be obviously much harder to see their father once he is deported back to Mexico. So.
Right. That shocks me that they're keeping him in a jail because most of the people, because this was a big deal in general, but especially on Facebook. There was lots of comments. It shocks me that he's staying here and people are like, yeah, go ICE, go ahead and deport him, when it's the same people that advocate for get people out of jail because I don't want to spend my tax dollars on them.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. For sure.
That shocks me.
Yeah. This is, again, I think a large part of this story was to highlight the fact that ICE action is, despite, contrary to what the federal government says about what ICE's intentions are and what they're doing, they're not just targeting violent criminals and getting them off the street, right? This is not people that are... This was very clearly not a violent criminal. Yes. And this wasn't necessarily some, huge operation that they conducted to make the community safer. And I will say, I have not heard from ICE in this. They were not very quick, but they were more receptive to us in the first story about the DuQuoin men, to the point where these men had warrants out for their arrest. This guy, he would have had a warrant out for his arrest, but it would have been issued by ICE themselves.
And he wasn't a violent offender.
No, this was
either.
not someone that had committed any violent crimes, to our knowledge.
Yes,
in Southern Illinois, he had not. Now, whether or not that happened somewhere else, I have no idea.
Can't say,
right. But in Jackson County, in Williamson County, in Perry County, in this area, that did not happen. So that was sort of not necessarily the point of it, but a subplot of this whole thing is like, this was not someone who is being taken out of the community, and that's going to be a necessarily net positive impact on the place because he was committing heinous crimes to the people around him. This was actually someone who was uplifting his community. He was a big part of his church. He was a big part of his neighborhood. He was a small business owner that did landscaping, and I'll say that I've had multiple of his clients reach out to me, and they're like, yo, how am I going to get my, yard cleaned up? Which is a little insensitive, honestly, to be like, I don't know how I'm going to do this right now. And I'm like, it's a good point. Like, his daughters don't even know how to handle the finances. His daughters don't know how to...
But if you're a pillar of a community, people are going to wonder, like, when you're gone, well, now I don't have this, so what am I going to do for myself? Yeah,
there is a hole in the place that he was in Carbondale, for sure.
Yes.
His absence is going to make according to everybody else, a net negative impact on them, which is... not a good thing. So now he, is going to spend time in jail for what is essentially not a parking ticket. Obviously, the reason he's going to spend time in jail is because he has now twice entered the United States illegally.
Right.
But yeah, we had a lot of people in stories like this, and even the first story, where we had a lot of people, and there is data on this. I can see it. I can see our analytics on Facebook. It is a very small percentage of people that comment that also view the story entirety, that click the link, and read the story.
Yeah.
And that's reflected in the way that they comment, because there was a lot of people who were like, well, he had 25 years to become a citizen, it seems like to me.
Right. So they read the first paragraph.
Right. It was explicitly stated in the story that he was working on getting citizenship and had been since 2011. of course, that's what he wanted. You know, you come here to the United States, you want to become a citizen.
Yeah.
But you also are young and you get DUIs and you do other silly stuff. And not that that's not a bad thing, but people make mistakes. And one of the huge, I think, quotes that I got from one of his clients in this was that everybody deserves second chances. And that's not really the case with the current, you know, legislation that we have surrounding immigration law. It is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly difficult for you to become a United States citizen, even if you have the cleanest, most sparkling record possible, right?
I agree with you.
It's very hard. It's a years-long process, let alone if you have any type of criminal record, or if you've been deported once and you came back. I mean, it's tough to say, but it's like there's no shot. Like the path to citizenship for this individual specifically is very, very, very minuscule. Like it's very, very unlikely that ever happens. And even in this story, I detail how his daughter was in the process of trying to sponsor him, which you can do once you turn 21. As if you are a United States citizen, as being the daughter or a child of an immigrant, you can sponsor your parents or another family member, which is also an incredibly, incredibly long, hard, difficult process. So, I mean, this person was trying to become a citizen and was trying to turn his life around. And despite what, you know, legally what he's trying to do, he was turning his life around and like being just a human being that had made mistakes in the past and was I feel like his absence in the community is going to be felt, and maybe that'll be something that we follow up on, and you know, we'll update on what ends up happening to him, and we can talk about maybe what revisiting with his daughters and what has happened to the business and the family and all of that good stuff. So
awesome. All right, well, thank you for coming on.
Yep.
I'm here with some of the cast of Everything Goes from SIU Theater and Dance Department. Now go around. I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves and the role that you played. We'll start with you.
Okay. My name is Yasmin Martinez Powell. I also work at the DE.
Yes, you do.
And I was Spit.
Hi.
Bro was spit. My name is Olivia Manning. I do not work at the DE, and I played Reno Sweeney.
My name is Lily Lim. I also don't work at the DE, but I was one of Reno's angels, and I was the dance captain through Anything Goes.
Wonderful. So how do you guys prepare yourself for something like this? Whoever wants to go, just go ahead and jump in.
I don't.
It happens to me.
Just goes.
There's sort of a group preparation, which obviously takes months and months. You know, rehearsal, we do the music, and then we do the dance, and then we block it, and then it's like, oh, we have to add the costumes and do all the things. But individually, I think that there's also a lot of, especially this show where there was these huge dance numbers where everybody would be on stage, you know, dancing for like 9 minutes and then have to sing. I know there are many of us, myself included, who would like do like jumping jacks while singing to make sure that you can, because you're like, oh, whatever, you know, I sing, whatever, I think we all sing. And then, you know, you dance for 8 minutes and you're expected to sing, and it's like,
it's really like, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, cool. Heart,
got it.
Great.
I can't breathe.
Palpitating. Great.
I can't breathe. The air is really dry up here.
Really dry, and then there's lights.
And then
smoke
we
and
also
fog.
changed theaters.
We did.
We did change
Yes.
So that
theaters,
was a lot
yes.
different too, getting used to a different space.
I know a thing or two about that.
You do know,
Oh,
because
you
you're writing
do.
it.
Yay. Thank you for writing that.
So did you originally start out in the McLeod
No.
or in the Mo?
Neither.
Really?
We started
Yeah.
rehearsing in Alt Guild 116, and then
Right.
basically we took that space that we like did our blocking and our choreography in, and then moved it into Shryock. About
Okay.
I want to say about
Like
5 days.
very brief.
and like we only had full set.
I want to say
like
3 days before we even opened.
Before, not even full.
Sounds about
Yeah,
right.
they
Yeah.
were still
Maybe
in the
about a
middle
week.
of building it while we were rehearsing on it for the first time when we got into Shryock.
Right. So did you have like your dress rehearsal with full set or no?
I believe by the time we had our first one, it was.
wasn't- Okay.
I feel like we only had one escape stair, and that was it.
we did.
Yes, for first dress,
Yeah,
yes.
but
we
other
had-
than that, I think we had pretty much.
we had the rolling units. We had the stage had this second level. There was a
Yeah.
Got it.
staircase up the front, where a lot of really fun stuff happened. And, you block it when you don't have this staircase. You're on a flat stage and you're like, it would be really fun if everyone ran up the stairs really quickly
in the middle,
then ran
back down the stairs while singing.
And
dancing.
And
in long dresses.
And, you don't think about that. And then you get on the stage. And I personally, there are several duets that Reno has with different men in the show. And in every single one of them, the director went, you know what, let's go up and down the stairs. Now,
awesome.
I am 5, you can't hear it in my voice. I sound 6'4", but I am 5'2".
In fact.
And in heels and in dresses most of the time. And the men are not in heels, and they are tall.
Yes.
And they can go up the stairs 2 at a time. And I cannot go up the stairs 2 at a time.
No.
So I'm
Huffing and puffing.
during this
Getting up
instrumental
there.
break, trying to get up there and then trying to get back down. And you don't, you're like, yeah, in the room, it's like, can you get up the stairs this fast? And I go, absolutely, I can go up the stairs that fast. What do you think I am, geriatric? Bad. I was like, I looked up at the stairs, I was like, oh my god.
Oh, those are a lot taller than they
those
were
are
taped
really
out.
tall, actually.
And the people who would just teleport
Yeah.
in rehearsal, they just wouldn't use the tape.
Okay, I
They'd
guess
be
we'll
like,
just
"Okay,
go
I'm
up
now."
there.
And it's like, we actually have to walk up those stairs.
But then we had way more space than we thought we
Yeah,
did.
it was
and
really nice.
Alkel is much smaller than
Yeah.
a proscenium stage, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was we had this whole thing where there was this decal on the floor of this beautiful sort of flower-looking thing, and then everybody would just sort of think that was the end of the stage, and we would just
Right.
hang out. We would just all hang out around this decal, and our director Angela was like, "You have like 5 more feet of space. You have a full person's worth before you fall into the pit.
She's like, please come forward.
Please come forward. We cannot see you." We would all be like, but this is where the paint is.
But
and
this
we
is where
understand-
I've been practicing.
We understand the paint.
So how long was this rehearsal process?
We started in January.
Okay.
So we auditioned a little earlier than we typically do for a
Right.
semester. We auditioned for this production last semester, and then we immediately jumped into it whenever we started our spring semester.
Okay.
It was like a
2 months just about, because we started like January,
Second week of class.
earlier
Second
than we
class.
usually
Okay.
do.
Much
Yeah.
earlier than we usually
Much
do.
earlier, because usually by now this musical around this time would have gone up sometime in like the end of April, but
Wow,
since
okay.
we did it a whole month early, we started rehearsing basically a whole month early.
Because I think
Yeah.
usually what happens is the next musical doesn't happen until like the play before
Yes,
ends.
ends.
Yeah.
But
Something
we
like
had a
that.
very sort of truncated schedule again because we were depending on other people's spaces.
Right,
We
yes.
got into Shryock Auditorium when we could get into Shryock
Yes.
Auditorium. It wasn't a we could not choose as we were beggars at the time.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about what the audition process is like.
So scary.
Scary.
You think people say about professional actors and performers. At least this is a saying that I've heard. I don't know if you guys have heard this one. Our job is to audition. We perform for free.
Yeah.
Yes.
So once you get into the real world, it really is just auditioning. Do you hear back? Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? You might hear back from a job 3 months after you audition and it's like, hey, we actually want you. It's like, whoa, I forgot that I did this.
Yeah.
However, in college, it's a little different because
Yes.
there's one bulk audition for everything. So even if you're like, it's fine, whatever, it's just another audition, it does decide the next 4 months of your life.
Right.
So there is a big like, and you have to, you're auditioning for multiple things at the same time. We were auditioning for the play, Mary Zimmerman's Metamorphoses at the same
Yes.
time. So, you prepare a monologue for that. You prepare a song for this. They call you back. You do scenes. You learn the lines for a scene. You learn the notes for a song really quickly. Dance call, where you learn I don't know.
A bit of
Find a
choreography
smidgen.
we didn't even use.
Yeah.
Just a little smidgen.
Maybe like one part of
we
that
used,
dance.
we used one part of
We
it.
used whatever this thing was.
We used whatever. We're doing a thing.
We're doing
you
a
can't
thing.
see
Can't
audio
see it,
description.
But we know what we're talking about.
They do some nonsense. Yeah, and it was I I hate to do an initial audition. I love to do a callback.
I love a callback.
Yes.
Because an initial audition, it's like you, the person, and you have to be like,
scared.
hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
But then when it's a callback, you get to like have another person to play off of, which is so
Right.
much fun.
Because at least your foot's already in the door.
Yes.
Like getting a callback, that's just like one smaller step of like, okay, at least I'm partially there. But then if you don't get cast, at least it's like, okay, well, at least I was there for a
At least-
callback.
and you get to see how other people see you. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah, because I was called back for all three.
Okay.
I was called back for the three main women of Irma, Reno, and Hope. And then I
about
ended
3
up
for
being 3 for 3. And then I ended up being Angel number 1 and the dance captain. And I was like, yippee! Because like that was a nice like, oh, this is so sick. I get to be a dance
Yes.
captain. Yippee!
Awesome. So we're going to go through, we're going to start with you, Mina, and tell me the hardest part, the most challenging part of the show for you and your favorite part.
I think it would be probably the dancing.
What was the hardest part for you?
Yeah, but honestly, I also think it was probably my favorite part. It's weird coming from like a non-dance background, and so obviously I've only been tapping now for
Yes.
like
a year for you?
probably in conjunction, because it's like, oh, we only have one semester of tap,
Right.
and then we had musical theater dance where we tapped for another one semester.
Yeah, right.
And
goes
so a
together.
lot of the things that we did were things that I had never done.
Yeah.
And so it's like, ooh,
Right.
oh, hey, so don't
Hit that double pullback.
Yeah,
so
hit that double
what's a
pullback.
buck and wing time step?
How about hit that double pullback?
Oh my God. The time steps, because I had never done any type of like buck and wing, and none of those types of
Explain
time
what
steps.
that is for the people listening.
Lily, you could probably do
I
this
was
better
gonna
than
say,
me.
maybe don't.
About you.
Mama, maybe not me.
So there's different styles of time steps.
Okay.
Now, I have been tapping since I was like a little kid. So this is
Right.
one of those things where I was just like, oh, I know how to do these things. But we're learning now, oh my God, I don't remember the name. But we're learning a slightly different type of time step where you basically start off like with a flap instead of a pullback. So the newer ones that we're learning now are slightly more complicated than the ones that you learn for Buck and Wing.
Right.
And Buck and Wing is very classic. It's shown like in a lot of like old time Broadway and
Right.
even now. But basically, there's single, double, and triple time steps.
Wow.
And we did, I pretty much think like all of them in the show. I think we just did the doubles and the triples.
Yeah, I don't think we
but
did it. I don't think we hit
we didn't do a single, but
We had to skip that one.
we had to skip that one. But basically
happens.
learning a different kind of tap at a dance call is scary. And Yasmin's already like,
Because it's so interesting. It's like I'm there and I'm like, what? And then like I get out of the dance call,
You're like,
and
what
I
was
can do
that,
it now.
bro? And
I can do it now.
right.
Because Yasmin would be like, look at my feet, am I doing it? I'm like, yeah, that's it. And she's like, dang. I'm like, I could have done that in there. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, just because it's something that you didn't necessarily know right off the bat doesn't mean that you can't learn it, because learning Buck and Wing is slightly easier than the other ones, because it's just, the timing is a little different, and then just the steps that you start with and end with are just a teeny weeny bit different.
But I would say that, just as someone who doesn't come from a dance background, was really, really hard. And I think a lot of my other castmates who weren't used to that also could say the same thing, because there's such a different, like there was such a range of ability in dance.
Yes.
Which was very interesting in that aspect, and probably very hard to deal with, of being like, some people can do this, some people can't do this. How do we include all of them? Because all of us were on stage. Which again, at the end of the day, it ended up being my favorite thing, and I just feel a lot more confident now in a lot of the things that I do, because of how fast paced I think everything was. Because before I was like, I can't do this, little old me. And now I'm like, oh wait, yeah, now I know how to do it. It's fine. It's actually not that big of a deal. And so I just think this has actually helped me improve quite a bit, specifically on tap. Maybe a little bit like musical theater, jazz.
Yeah.
Is that
You're
what
right.
Blue Keeper Blue was? I don't know.
Musical theater.
Musical theater,
yeah. Heels, character heels,
yeah.
character shoes.
But yeah.
So what was your favorite part and what was the hardest part for you?
The hardest part of the show, to be Rinesini,
Yes.
is that it is a marathon. Act 1 is a marathon, Act 2 is a sprint. Reno is in nearly every scene in this show. Gets a little lighter in Act 2, but Act 1 it really is come in a beautiful gown, change in 30 seconds to a second beautiful gown,
That's tough.
come on stage, sing a song, leave, change into a third beautiful gown.
Mind you, out of breath.
Mind completely out of mind you, running up and down stairs.
I get that.
In heels, mama.
In heels, in 2-inch heels. And yeah, it really is just being able to pace yourself vocally, and understanding, creating a voice and a performance that you can do even when you're not at 100%.
Yes.
I would say for probably one of these shows, one of the 4 shows that we did, I felt like I was in like good shape vocally.
Yeah.
But hopefully nobody could tell because I was able to develop a situation where my vocal health was consistent and I could perform it still and sound good and sound like I was not struggling. That was probably the hardest part. And then my favorite part, there is a number in Act 2 called Gypsy and Me that is mildly problematic. But
How so?
well, you see,
you see,
How so?
the word is not great. You know, we put a little note in the program about it.
Yes.
But you know, it's not good. But you know, product of its time, written in 1934.
Yeah. What can you expect sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the number itself is this beautiful paso doble tango partner dance number. Just like, you know, 3 minutes of straight just being thrown when you're me.
Yes.
And that's just such a blast. I love to do partner stuff because I don't get to do that stuff a lot. Play like, you know, like romantic leads. It's not really my forte.
That's okay.
So it's fun to live in the over dramatic
Oh, yeah.
world of that for like 3 minutes. And I had other favorite part, these costumes were beautiful. The costumes were beautiful gowns. Wendy Z, the goat, the genius. And I looked beautiful.
All of them are
Sure you did.
gorgeous.
All right. Favorite part and the hardest part for you?
Okay, so they're kind of a mix of the two because I love choreography and I love dancing. That's my favorite part of all of it. But also it was one of the hardest parts. So I didn't necessarily have a lot of time with the choreographer prior to us learning all of these pieces. Now, mind you, every single piece that had any kind of choreography in it, I was there at every single rehearsal.
Wow.
And she had to know it.
And I had to know it.
From
so
every perspective.
I had to know it from every perspective and every person. So if somebody called out that day or just wasn't there, then I would fill in for that person.
Yes.
So I had to know everybody's parts. But again, I would learn it at the same time as all of the other actors and actresses, is that I would just be there basically ready to jump in at any point. And that was very difficult because I like to be prepared and know what I do. So whenever it's kind of like tossed at me of like, okay, here, this is this now, or we're changing this now, I'd be like, what? Wait.
Yeah.
And
how do we fix this?
So I would also make sure that I'm like putting in my input a little bit just to be like, okay, hang on, like let's worry about this right now, or let's worry about this right now. Or I would have times where I would go over notes with people and then just try and like help them out with like choreography notes and things. So that was difficult. But then just once it all blended together towards the end, I think that was just like my favorite part of like, oh, I can finally like ease my shoulders and I can finally relax and just let people do their choreography that they know, because now that they know it, I can finally like take my hands off and be like, okay, you guys have got it now. I don't have to worry about it anymore. But truly, it was just, even the numbers that I wasn't in, I loved seeing them develop, and I loved just all of the people that I worked with did such a grand job for the tight schedule that we had, and I thought that everybody just did wonderful, especially those who like didn't necessarily come from a larger dance background, kind of like Yasmin. You just kind of see people grow into this type of thing, like of, oh, I'm doing pretty good. She's eating her microphone. I'm not. You
can't see that,
You
so
can't see
it's
that.
not true.
It's okay. No, it's okay. It's just what I'm saying. But yeah, so just seeing basically how everybody developed in their own way, because this is a very dance heavy show, very dance heavy, and even I had times where I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
So I feel I very much, this is just my favorite part, is watching everybody grow and seeing how they do.
I'm just glad I got to dance.
Yeah.
Mama, I'm just glad I was there. You know, I was scared. I was like, oh, I did so bad at that dance call.
Don't even worry, Mama. Look, you made it.
Mama,
You
I
made it.
It's
It's
done.
okay.
Mama, you were there and you bowed. What? Hello?
And now you can go to a new dance call and go.
Yay. And now I know things.
I know this one.
And you know what? I know that. And you know what? I know a buck and wing times.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
I
what?
do.
And what?
I know how to do a wing.
It's always to
We
improve.
all there's
I think we can all do it.
21 of us on stage, and Matt Williams, our choreographer, goes, and now we're gonna do 4 wings.
Well, originally
it
he had
was
us do
like
8.
Yeah.
Originally he had us do 8, and then I looked at him and I said,
I don't.
4.
4.
4, please.
4.
I
And
don't
he was
even
like,
know how to
4.
describe. What is that one thing where we're like that?
The
They're
chugging.
trenches.
The trenches.
They're chug
Yeah.
trenches.
Yeah.
and then
And then 8 wings. And I was like,
wings.
Matt.
keep in mind he couldn't even do it himself. So I don't know why he was like, and now you guys.
Now you guys do
wings.
8 of them. And now, mind you, I think like maybe 4 of us can do like
Actually
actual
do
wings.
Yeah.
But let me
And
tell
so
you,
he's
like,
wings
so
are
fake
really
it.
easy to fake.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
really
yeah.
easy to fake. But if you're listening, like if you're the only person doing them, like it's
Yeah.
such a distinct sound that like if it's just nobody doing it, you're just like, oh, you're just jumping.
We're just jumping.
You're just jumping.
All right. You got anything else, Peyton? Any other questions? You good? Do you guys want to sing us out? I'll thank you guys, and you want to sing out?
Hiding away.
There's a little bit of gypsy in me.
All right. I'll thank you guys for coming on, and you guys can sing us out.
Oh, what part? Oh
What
God.
are we singing?
What are we singing?
Do
What
you
do we
walk
all
in
sing?
for a
What
sec?
are we singing, girl? And though I'm not a great romancer, I know that you're bound to
Cute.
answer.
I like that one. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming on, and go ahead and hit it.
And though I'm not a great romancer, I know that you're bound to answer when I propose. Anything goes. Anything goes.
My name is Mariah Fletcher, and thank you for listening to the DEbrief. See the Daily Egyptian online at dailyegyptian.com. Our print edition is all around campus in Southern Illinois. Check our website for all locations of our print edition is available. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, and LinkedIn. Send us your opinion at editor@dailyegyptian.com or DM us on Facebook and Instagram.